Okay, I'm back.
All right, thank you so much for coming to the Sashiko Talk. This is Atsushi, and this is the second Sashiko Talk with having an Anja as a guest. Let me just check the sound first. I'm just doing a sound check, so just.
Mm-hmm.
Can you a little bit talk, Anja?
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah, like
I'm sorry. Just a second.
Yeah,
hello,
I know
hello,
that's
hello.
always
Test.
like test 1, 2, 3 thing. Yeah, but I can also like try to just talk to myself and find a comfortable position. And I'm also very close to my iPhone, so if I'm coming over like really loud, I need to find a different position. Okay, cool.
Hello, good afternoon. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for waiting. I'm sorry, Anja. The sound is very important. I don't want to be too quiet. I don't want to be too loud. I don't want to increase any stress for that. All right, thank you so much. This is the Sashiko Live, not a Sashiko Live. It is a Sashiko Live. It is Sashiko Talk that where I stitch and talk about Sashiko a little bit. I hope everybody can hear that. Everybody can look at it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming. Thank you for coming. My hands are gonna be okay. It's so much stuff that I have to do at once. So yeah, probably good.
Yeah, like afterwards, I'm probably curious to know how you do Zoom and YouTube at the same time, but that's not for now.
I can answer you.
Yeah,
very easy. I had to pay.
Okay.
That's super easy. I have to pay.
Okay, that clears that up because I tried to like go like, how would you? But yeah, paying is like.
It was very easy. Like, like, how do I do it? And I Googled, and you pay this much and you can do it. Okay, sure. There we go. Hello, Sharon. Thank you so much for coming. Excited. It's probably early in your place. Just a second. I'm not really getting that. So what are you stitching? What are you stitching on now?
So wait, I just try to show it a little bit better. So basically, I have to probably ramble a bit, but stop me if it gets boring. So this is a antique linen fabric.
Okay.
And it used to be a pillowcase, so that's how I bought it, like really, really cheap. But then I saw that the quality of the fabric is really, really good. Like it's probably hand woven and it's probably around 100 years old-ish.
Wow.
And with linen, I really like working with linen because it gets like a really nice sheen once it's worn and old. But this one was like very worn because it was a pillowcase. So I took it apart and then didn't know what to do with it. And then I was on a dyeing workshop, so I took this with me and dyed it with indigo. But during the process, because the fabric was already so worn, we tore it up. Like there is a big tear here that I tried to like repair.
Wait,
and then
go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, and then I thought like, well, I could cover the whole fabric with Sashiko stitching to strengthen the fabric so that I can use it as a scarf and it doesn't break down any further. And then I planned to like do stitch patterns, but then I realized the fabric didn't like like working in angles didn't really comply with the fabric. So I stopped doing that, but also the fabric is so thin already, I couldn't take it out. So I decided to just leave it and now cover the whole thing in this, like just parallel lines.
Yes,
You
yes,
see.
yes, 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 yes.
And then there's a lot of different ways of mending already in there, like patched. And there's also like mending in there that was already there when I bought it. So yeah, it's eventually it's going to be a scarf, but it needs to have something to keep it from falling apart, basically.
Well, if you want to call it, that's the Boro. That's, you don't have to call it. That's not your, the Boro is not your cultural word. But if you want to call it, that's exactly how Japanese people made Boro today. Just, keep mending, keep fixing, keep stitching, and keep using. That's how they used it. So,
Yeah.
So can I ask you one question? Is that the same linen fabric that you were working on in the live session that I had with you?
Yes.
So you dyed after that. I remember that
Yeah.
was white.
Yeah, I dyed it after that. There has been I had many different layers of work in there that already happened, like even before me. And yeah, I dyed it. I
Wow.
destroyed it even more by accident. I mended it. I stitched it in a way that didn't work. And now I think this is the way that works. Just parallel lines of Sashiko stitching.
That's probably exactly how the Japanese people made today's sashiko. Try and errors. They tried this one and then didn't work. I have this scarf, but I have a little red part here. I don't know if you can see it, but this red part is.
Oh yeah, I see it. Yeah.
This red part is not something beautiful like yours. It is my blood.
Oh.
I didn't realize. I was bleeding from somewhere, and it's now red. So that's why Boro is kind of very, how can I say, personal. I don't want to give it to somebody stranger saying like, this is my blood, thank you so much. That's a little too much, but that's I think how we made a Boro, and that's why it's kind of beautiful. It includes all of the stories. So you said that the bias was pretty difficult to stitch, right? That's what you said.
Because I can try to show you. It's because it's so thin, but like in this direction, it's very bendy and stretchy and slippery. Whereas as long as I go along the grain with the grain, it always almost like the needle stays with the grain by itself without much effort. So yeah, but on the bias it was not a good idea.
Yeah, that's why it leads to the story, like the question, a little bit of topic that we were going to discuss. The fundamental, like very primitive Boro that they had didn't have much patterns on it. That's because they couldn't make patterns on it.
Yeah. In this,
So the sashiko with patterns are kind of recent phenomenon, like a few hundred years, not before that.
Yeah.
In my understanding. That's very different from Kogin and Hishizashi, and I cannot speak on behalf of them because it's kind of different story. But as far as I know, and as far as the sashiko we practice, the pattern kicked in a little later than that primitive phase of stitching straight lines. So most of the Boro pieces we see has a lot of straight lines, and also a lot of knots as well. In order to stop the stitches, sometimes you have to make knot.
Yeah.
So do you make knot on your project?
No.
On the linen, does it work? Did you try?
Like on the bias, it didn't really work.
Right.
Without knots. Like, I think because the fabric is really loose in a way. You see here. I don't know if you can see that.
I can. Yeah, I'll just make it bigger. Go ahead.
But it, again, that's also something I then discovered that my choice of pattern wasn't really good, which is logical because I'm really still just a beginner. And then also the fabric is too loose, I think, to make Kazane work. But now, like with the beginning and the end, I don't make knots. So I think it's fine here.
Okay.
And then I just have one length, like one thread is the length of the scarf. So I try to like get around with only 2 points of entry and exit, kind of.
Be smart, right? Like try to think before you stitch to avoid unnecessary. I mean, to be lazy.
Yeah, exactly.
Think a little bit before to be lazy. So fabric has a very different character. So I don't want to say Kasane works on every single fabric, and you have to kind of try and error for that as well. Well, today's keyword might be try and error.
Yeah, probably. That's a good one.
Sorry, I'm gonna kind of choose breaking my posture because it's so much light that I don't even usually use. So much light from every single pass angle. All right, just a second. Is my hand in the picture? Kind of. Kind of, but not really. Just a second, okay.
Yeah, it blows out a little in the top right corner.
Probably this is. Well, it's probably good. It's all good. Do your body hurts after doing? I mean, doing sashiko?
Usually not. No.
Usually
I mean,
not. That's good.
It depends. Like, I like to work a lot. Like, I rarely work sitting at a table, and sometimes I'm in really weird positions, and I know if I don't realize that. But that's not really due to the stitching itself, but just twisting myself up and then forgetting to shift every once in a while. But like for my hands, I can really go on for a really long time, even with thick fabric like denim, which is really great.
It's good. It's really not tiring. Like some people say that sashiko is very tiring or sashiko requires a lot of finger muscle. Not really. So it's really much about how to use the right posture, which I'm not doing right now because my body hurts. But I probably twisted something last night.
Oh yeah, then it's hard to find a like painless posture anyway, and yeah, can imagine.
Another try and error.
Yeah.
Wow, everything is gonna be there. How long do you estimate to finish that piece? I mean, there will not be any ending for that piece, but how long do you think? I mean, how far are you willing to go? That would be the question.
Like
all of it?
It's a good. Yeah.
Are you gonna stitch all of it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, that's the only. It's the only way to go, really.
Yes.
Because I mean, I start from both sides. Like this is the other side. Like I work inwards. But yeah, I think any area that's not stitched will blow out quite quickly.
Yep.
So yeah, apart from it being a never-ending project, like you said, it's I cover the whole thing.
So the reason I asked the reason I ask you this question is that once we started doing actual Boro project, like a Boro to be project, there's no ending until we give up.
Yeah. Yeah. True.
Some people think that mending as the solution, but it is a solution for the very temporarily solution. The more you mend, the other parts get much weaker.
Yeah.
So let's say if I mend here one place, that means we have to mend the other place later on. So it's a never-ending story.
It is. Because I mean, what's the expectation? If you mend something, you expect it to like live forever, I think, in a way. And in order to be able to achieve that, you have to keep mending forever.
Yep. So that's the Boro today. We can see they didn't really give up. They couldn't give up, for that matter.
Yeah. I mean, probably at some point there is a point of no return in terms of the fabric breaking down, but then it probably could be incorporated in something else and parts of it could live on. So yeah. But actually, I mean, since I started mending my clothes, I mean, my mom made me mend my clothes when I was a kid, and I hated it.
Yeah. There we go.
Because I found it really boring. But I mean, I know how to mend my clothes. That's the good thing. And when I again started mending my clothes a few years ago, I forgot where I wanted to go with that. But I really forgot. I lost my train of thought. Never mind. That's me just, yeah.
Oh, that's happened in stitching too. Like you think something like.
I remember.
Go ahead. Go ahead before you lose it.
I mean, yeah, to a certain point, I look forward to certain holes to appear because that means I can put in another layer of whatever mending that is. But there is also mending I really don't like. Like I hate darning socks. It's just not. I really don't like it.
Well, I mean, it's personal preference.
Yeah.
I really didn't like Sashiko. I literally hated Sashiko. Like 90% of my life, I hate it. It's only a few years ago I started liking it, so it's okay. It's okay to dislike, but at the same time, it's good that you could do it because you saw it. Your mother kind of taught you that.
Yeah.
Same thing for me and Sashiko. And I think we all go through that. For the mending purpose, I was always standing on my knees when I talked to my daughter when I wanted to have a hole on the denim. I really didn't like the idea of damaging the denim with the flat file, like those artificial damage.
Yeah.
I didn't like that. I don't like that idea. So I was using the Target floor, like supermarket floor to.
Yeah.
Sort of natural, I had to stand on my knees to talk to my daughter.
Yeah.
But I didn't have to, but that's how we kind of enjoy the moment for that.
Yeah. But that's the thing, because then, if your jeans eventually blow out on the knees, you know the story and where that came from, and then you mend it. So in a way, yeah, your daughter and going to Target with your daughter, all that is living on in your jeans. Whereas if you just buy it ripped already, or if you use a file, there is no story in it. And I think that's why I find it really weird when people buy jeans, for example, that are already distressed, because I'm like, why? It happens by itself and then it has a story. But then I guess most people don't have their jeans long enough anyway, so the stories would never happen.
It's pretty much what is the focus on. We focus on the process, the stories. I value the stories more. I understand those people who values the result, so-called fashion. I was one of those. I wanted
Yeah,
to.
true.
I did not care how the denim was made. I wanted to have a nice, good-looking denim when I was younger. There's we didn't really care about stories back then. Only things we cared was how it looked. Now, after learning what Sashiko really is, those stories matters to me. As you say exactly, my daughter asked me like, "Daddy, why are you shaking?" Well, in order to make a little damage on my denim, I have to shake standing on my knees.
Yeah.
Otherwise, just standing is not gonna make a hole. I have to kind of vibrate
Yeah.
in,
Yeah.
in front of my daughter. So those are the stories, and I think that's what makes Sashiko and Boro more special for that. And that's why I don't want anybody to define what Sashiko or Boro is, because those stories will define what Sashiko and Boro is for you. It can be sometimes very scary stories,
Yeah, true. And
But-
also I think what you talk about often a lot is the reason why people were forced to mend and do sashiko stitching and how Boro came to be. It is because people were so poor they couldn't afford, like they had to save every piece of fabric they had, and of course it was shameful to have broken clothes. So I think it's important to not forget where that comes from. I even think about that with the modern mending community, because I think it is still in a way a privilege to be able to wear mended clothes, because if you're really poor, that would still be a stigma, I think. Whereas if you're not poor, you can decide because you want to, and you can, to mend your clothes and show it off, as opposed to, and I think that's, I just never want to forget that aspect, because poorness is still something that
it's not the past, it's ongoing too.
Yeah.
There are people who cannot use the internet. There are people who cannot get a needle's thread, so we cannot forget about it. And everything is not about, how can I say, we choose, but the choice comes with the responsibility. I think I don't know what I want to say. But I think I got what you mean. I gotta stop stitching when I think like this. Like when I stitch, I became so, how can I say? I don't want to say stupid. So pure, not a pure, blank. I become so blank in my brain, so I cannot really think, and I don't want to say anything stupid in live streaming. So I really have to stop stitching and think. Whew.
Multitasking is a myth after all. So
this is not multitasking. It's pretty much
single tasking.
No tasking. Like, I'm not doing anything. That's why I feel good. Like same as driving. If you could watch TV, like if you could watch TV in driving, you can. You shouldn't, but you can, because driving is not actually a task. Same as stitching too. Like, the biggest difference is that in stitching you'll get just blood in your hand, not the crash. So I really don't think when I stitch. Sorry, there was a question, not a question, the comments. My jeans got ripped on the knees a lot because I'm so clumsy and I trip a lot. The story of clumsiness. Yes.
Exactly.
And it explains who you are. It explains who your fathers are. My daughter might not who I am at this age, because she's 5 years old. She doesn't remember everything. But by looking at what I was wearing, what I was stitching, I think she will realize how you know, how troublesome her father was. I don't know. I should really think before I speak. But yeah. So another comment. It is ironic that stitching and repair has come to be a pro-sledge rather than a necessity. Pro-sledge. That's something I have to remember. Privilege, not pro-sledge. Very true. Very true. So when the Japanese people were stitching Boro, it was not even privilege. Huh? It was very much a necessity.
Yeah.
But they had a pride too.
Yes.
They wanted to hide it, that how poor they were. Like, the Japanese are very much the society of public eyes. We care how the other people look at us. So they, of course, cared how try to kind of pretend that they were not poor.
Yeah.
But they had to stitch. One of the topic is that how Boro people, I'm sorry, the piece that are densely stitched with parallel stitching. So when they had a choice to mark or to do the patterns on the fabric, they used, as far as I know, they used something they had in their life. They didn't have a nice chalk pencil. They didn't have some template, but it's like plastic template they could use. They didn't have a transfer paper. They had nothing. So what they used, as far as I know, and that's what my mother was doing to kind of recreate the same pattern, was that using the white ash, like a wood ash, and some like a rice bowl.
Yeah.
That has a kind of circle, right?
Yeah.
They made the shippo patterns or the other circle pattern with using those not a ceramic, those pottery.
Yeah.
Those bowls, cups, and stuff like that. And it's not that difficult to find something straight. So I think they could find it, but those are the things that they used. So the pattern, like the people started enjoying the patterns way later than the origin of Sashiko and Boro. And I don't know if they had a name, Sashiko or Boro, back then. It may be just stitching. Sashiko may be just a name for summarized version of Japanese stitching after all. We just don't know that. So, but we're doing the exactly same thing as they did. Just, this time we have a choice and they didn't have a choice.
Yeah.
History of try and error.
Exactly. And also like what you said about, yes, they have a pride. And I mean, I started looking at European or Austrian mended things. I have a few like vintage or antique pieces, like women's chemises from probably the 1920s. And that like wherever, like under the arms, for example, that's the part where it was really worn and it is heavily mended, but it is like beautifully mended. So it's not just randomly stitched clothes. So it's somebody took the time to really make it as beautiful as possible. And I think that probably is also the pride part or something like that. Well, my clothes might be worn and I can't afford to buy something new, but at least I do it as beautifully as possible and like do it properly. Because like the stitches are really tiny and like, yeah, it's beautiful craftsmanship or craftswomanship. I don't know if that word exists. Probably it was women.
Probably. It's universal. I think it's not only Japanese. It's all happened everywhere in the world.
Yeah.
But that's what define us as a human. Like no matter how poor, how how difficult it is, the life is, we kind of try to be more beautiful. Try to find something beautiful in our limited life. I think that's what define us, what differentiate us from the animals. Eating or sleeping is not only things we do every day. And this is not my word. This is not my word. This is the word from, I believe it's from the owner of a museum, the Boro Museum, which existed in Japan, in Tokyo. I believe that owner, there was a kind of lecture from the owner once, and he talked about it, that some people say that Boro is the art at random, the beauty made by randomness. So they didn't really intend to use that fabric. So it's not the designed art. It was made by random. He said that it's not true. It's the result of the people's pride to make it even a little bit of beautiful in this severe condition. Therefore, they use a different color within the limitation because they couldn't use red or flashy colors. So it is random for that matter. There's no blueprint, but at the same time, it is more than just
it's
whatever.
Just, true. Yeah.
It's not a whatever. It's more.
Yeah.
I want to see that thing. Well, and we can make it. We can make it. That's the thing. Like the Boro is not the history. It requires a lot of things, and it is almost impossible to make Boro in today's society. But we can make those by learning, imagining, and feeling. You are making one great piece of Boro. I want to see that like 5 years, 10 years from now. Of course, today after you stitch, that'd be great too. But
yeah, I know what you mean. Like where does it go? Yeah.
And that's the story. That's the process. You don't, of course, you care how each stitches are after stitching, but at the same time, it's very, very small part of the story. So
yeah,
it's so interesting how we can change the culture and stuff. If you have any question when you are looking at this live streaming, please let me know. We will try to answer that, but we can keep going without the questions too. So. So there were a few topics that I will cut it just a second, okay?
Yeah.
So this is I think it's a question, but question from Anja. You and Keiko, like I and Keiko have been making things with our hands for a long time. What are our thoughts about crafts and art, and what placemaking and working with your hands holding your life? That's a very good question. So she gave me some question, but all the question is that I have not answered yet. So there's a reason that I didn't answer. It's difficult to answer. It's not that I don't want to answer.
Yeah.
Oh, there was a question from Sharon. There was a question from Sharon. I'm sorry. This is much easier, so I can think.
Yes, go for it.
For the Anja, did the indigo make the linen any stronger?
No. I mean, I have to say, like, that was my first time dyeing with indigo. And I think I made a mistake beforehand when I scored the fabric, because I didn't take into account how thin and worn it already was. So I think because of the way how I scored it, before dyeing, I destroyed it even more accidentally. So the whole process made the fabric not stronger, no, but I can't say, like, I don't know. I think my mistake was bigger than the effect of indigo possibly could have restored, if that makes sense.
I don't know.
I don't know, does indigo, I mean, I know it layers up, but
well, it prevents the further damage by some bugs or some chemical reactions. But I don't know if the fabric itself can restore themselves by dyeing. Like the worn fabric is kind of done as the fabric. I don't know if it's good to say that, but once the fabric starts tearing, it's one life has ended.
Yeah.
So we're kind of doing very strange things. If the life cycle, if there's any cycle, technically speaking, if the fabric starts tearing, that should be the end of that cycle.
Yeah.
So it's just inefficient to keep doing that.
Yes.
So usually people dye fabric before the cycle starts.
Yes.
And you did. I'm not judging. It's a really beautiful thing. It's a really beautiful thing, and that's why I'm so curious. How does that? How? How? I have to ask Keiko about it. Keiko does that sometimes too. She dyes something after she uses it.
But I mean, in this case, ask Keiko and let us know what she thinks. But in this case, I can, like, I have a thing for antique linen because you can't get linen in that quality anymore.
Oh.
It's just not made anymore. At least I don't know, like, even if it's of really good quality and hand woven, but so I'm not really a professional on that, but as far as I know, also the types of flax that are grown are different to the old breeds.
Mm-hmm.
So the type of linen you can make today is just different. I still like modern linen, but vintage or antique linen, it just has a beauty that I can't help myself. So with this piece, yes, the fabric is done, and in a way it's totally bananas to invest my time into it, but I can't ignore, like, the beauty in this.
Yeah, I'm not saying you should ignore.
And that's why I decided to dye it and spend my time preventing what already has happened.
Anja, it's today's topic: try and error.
Yes.
Try and error. You have to, like, that's very beautiful things to do. Can I ask you one thing?
Yeah.
Do you know where the linen fabric was made? Like, which countries, which culture? Is it your country, your culture?
Yeah.
Okay. So it's
so
from
I don't
Austria.
know 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure it is Austrian linen.
Okay.
There used to be a linen industry in Austria, I mean in Germany, in France, but almost all of it has died because it's terribly hard and expensive to make linen.
Yeah, it doesn't make money.
A few companies are still left that weave linen, and it's really a gorgeous quality. But still most of the industry is gone. But I think it's coming back.
Coming back. Wow.
I think it has to, because we can't go on forever importing cheap cotton, and so a few initiatives have come up, and also, like, in Austria, crafts is still a lot of traditional crafts still exist, even though they have become much rarer. they still exist, like these linen weavers, for example. And I think slowly people start to realize that it makes sense, for example, to invest in properly made linen because it holds forever, rather than having something cheap you need to exchange every 2 years or something. So I really hope that this continues. And
let me clarify one thing. So they still exist. The artisanship or craftsmanship still exists, and there are people who kind of receive that traditions in today's society.
Yeah.
Well, that's very good. That's very good.
I mean, some of them are, of course, have died out, or there are just a few old people left who know how to make certain things. But as a very general thing, I think, in Austria, crafts are still pretty, I don't know the word for it, but many Austrians are still proud of the local crafts, I think.
Wow.
Like
now
woodworking.
I have to go. I want to see the linen now. I mean, these kind of things exist in every single culture. Not in. The difference is that people decided to discontinue or not. That's it. That's really it. And if the people are still trying to somewhat pass down, that's a very precious things to even know. Like knowing is better than nothing. So knowing is one thing to start. Wow, that's good.
I mean, still it is hard to make a living as craftsperson or artisan. So these companies, or like there are, I think, 3 companies left who dye with indigo, because there is a local tradition of indigo dyeing as well, like in the east of Austria. But like that's literally 3 companies, family owned businesses, like tiny, and they have a hard time surviving. So, but it's not lost yet.
That's very good.
Should put it like this, I guess.
Yeah, thank you. That's very good. I think that's what I'm trying to do too. Just try to.
Exactly.
Our Sashiko is a revived version, so it's not as like pure as it should be, but still, there are people who practice it based on the knowledge that they revived. So it's better than nothing for that too. But it's impossible to listen to somebody it's impossible to learn Sashiko from somebody who lived 300 years ago. It's just impossible. So it's good to learn from whatever we have left. And I've been thinking about your question. What placemaking and working with your hands holding in life? That's a very good question. Let me. Aloha from Hawaii. Thank you for coming. I'm sorry. There was a comment. I am just learning it. It was difficult to find supplies here. I finally find them at the fabric shop by the Japanese Cultural Center. If you live in Hawaii, I have a shop, and I don't think shipping is not that expensive to Hawaii. So check the upcyclestitches.com for the Sashiko supplies. I won't disappoint you for that. I can say it with Anja here. So
yes, I can agree.
So Keiko has been making a lot of things with her hand. How can I explain? First of all, I think I have to explain how the Japanese folk art developed. So Sashiko is not a fine art. I understand some people call it art, but technically speaking, Sashiko is not categorized as the fine art. It's the folk art. And the Japanese people define what is the folk art. We call minge. In 18th century, there was like a big movement about folk art in Japan, and they defined minge in 9 categories. And I'm not trying to bore you with 9 categories, but one of that category is the separate work. One person doesn't make whole process. Let's say that one person is, focusing on stitching, the other person is focusing on preparing the fabric, the other person is focusing on the finishing as a product. So in order to make a craft which can be applied in the daily life, so-called craft, not the art, they had to split the work, and each artisans were proud of what they did. For example, they were proud of let's use cooking as an example. Some people very proud of cutting onions. Some people are very proud of stir frying it. Some people are very proud of putting them on the dishes. So it really differed. It's not like making something beautiful out of scratch and be proud of that. Be proud of that as a result. It's more like a proud of what they could contribute to the bigger picture. For that, I am like that too. I happen to be good at doing Sashiko stitching, but I'm not really good at using the sewing machine. I can probably, if I try. I've seen enough to make those jackets, but I'm not good at making those jackets that I share on the Instagram. I've seen a lot how they made it, but I have done so few times that I'm not good at it. Keiko is not so 100% good at stitching. Probably stitching wise, I'm better than Keiko. But Keiko is super good at patchworking, combining and stitching in between to make one super pieces, like the photos you can see. So that's a very different thing as the art, folk art, fine art, and craft. So I think for us, the working with our hand is a part of something bigger. Does it make sense? So it's not.
Yeah, it totally makes sense.
It's not like I'm sorry if the Western mindset. I'm sorry if I misunderstood the Western mindset, but many people think that something made by hand is the way to express themselves, which is great, by the way. Don't get me wrong. It's perfectly great that I make this one. So this is the representation of who I am. So that's great. I am the artist. Great job. Please admire me. Those are very beautiful concepts. At the same time, I did not get to that concept until I moved to here. Before, I was well, I wasn't happy because I hated Sashiko. But many Sashiko artisans I knew do not wish to be on the camera like this I am today. They prefer to be anonymous because they are very proud of what they did, yet they know that they are part of the whole system, not a system, whole, just not a whole, nothing, whole, nothing, whole, just whole. So I think we considered crafting or doing something with our hands to be a part of that whole, which can be community, which can be industry. So when the Sashiko machine came in 2000, like early 2000, of course we worried about it, but once we saw it, we kind of concluded that that's a completely different thing. I like the idea, and I don't. Some people say that I should hate Sashiko sewing machine, like machine Sashiko.
Yeah.
I don't hate it. I am okay with it because it's just a different thing. And that the Sashiko sewing machine is designed to make a beautiful piece within themselves. So not as a part of the big community. But at the same time, that's the folk art in Sashiko. There was a Sashiko before the folk art, which we enjoy today, the Boro, more personal one. So there's a very different perspective in the chronological timeline. Before the civilization, the Japanese people stitch for survival, which is very much personal things to do. Family is the unit. And the more they became wealthier, they required to use something similar. So they kind of introduced mass production in that. And as a result, those industries evolved. And that's the craftsmanship I talked about. And that's how our Sashiko became the business.
Yeah.
And today, we might be shifting it back to the personal pleasure to make those things. But we never thought of doing Sashiko or like making some like Sashiko jacket without our hands.
Yeah.
So it is just our identity, I guess, if I can answer this question. So it's so good. It's just touching the core of what I do. So I have to summarize everything I value in a few sentences. So I'm sorry. I hope it makes sense.
It does, yeah.
And also it can connect to the spirituality Japanese believes in, animism. The hands kind of transmit spirit into the things. It's not a virus. It's not a virus. It's just, something. Something is here. Doesn't have to be positive. Can be hatred, can be jealous, can be anything. But so some people even doesn't like using those finger cut or those gloves because they believe that actual bare hand is the key to make a good stuff. So there's a lot of cultural aspect of that. Oh my God, this video is not. Sorry, I'm not really showing my hands very well.
I mean, actually, like that's just a random thought, but when you think about fermentation, you have to use your bare hands. Otherwise, often you will have no result.
Fermentation, you said?
Yeah, fermentation. Like, for example, when you, like many kinds of fermentation, like you need the lactic acid bacteria, for example, to like make cheese or kimchi or sauerkraut. And they mostly transfer from your hands into the product.
Yep. So
I know some people are really uncomfortable with this thought, but that's just how it goes.
Well, people made alcohol with chewing some potatoes and spitting.
Oh, yeah, true.
So it's okay. I mean, there's a line. We feel comfortable, not comfortable, based on the culture we grew up. But
yeah, that's like what is the word? I lose my English. But like that underlines what you just said. On a spiritual level, it exists on a, I don't want to say real, but because spiritual is real as well. But I think you know what I mean. Like you transfer literally bacteria with your hands and then you have the product.
Yeah.
So there has to be a layer, like a spiritual layer, where your hands do the same and transfer something in the thing you make. totally.
It is
totally
very,
agree.
impossible to explain, but it might be very subjective thing, but I would like to eat something made by somebody I like. I don't want to
Yeah.
eat food
Yeah.
from the people who I don't like. It's very subjective, but
Yeah.
it's the smallest unit of that is the family.
Yeah.
So I think the Sashiko stitching for the family is the family, including myself, like oneself, is probably the best primitive image of Sashiko that I can pass down to the next generation.
Yeah.
So many people ask me, what is the definition? True. They say true, authentic definition of Sashiko. But for me, as long as they stitch for somebody who they care, and if they want to call it Sashiko, I
Yeah.
have no problem with that. I mean, there's the patterns, there's techniques, but there's something more important than those things. If they care about their unit, family, community, friends, that's.
Yeah.
By the way, I mean, you know it because we've been talking about it, but care doesn't mean that love. It can be hatred too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Care means the emotions toward them. The opposite of caring is not the hate or dislike. It's the ignorance.
Yeah. It's not. Yeah. It's not caring. Yeah.
Not caring. So
Yeah.
caring doesn't mean that I hate. So as long as I keep saying I hate you, I hate you, I hate you, it can be love at some point.
Yeah, there is some active thing going on. There is ignorance, and there is just nothing left.
Yep. And that's why I did not block people on my Instagram. But no, there's a different story. That's a different story. Let's not talk about it today. I didn't talk about it for 1 hour, so let's not talk about it. So sorry, there was a comment. I didn't get it. I took a such class here in St. Louis, Missouri, and I quoted you in the paper I wrote for the class creation. There's a class for it's not like a workshop, it's the class for some organization. Wow. There's a paper. Many people try to incorporate with Sashiko as an academic, so it's kind of fun to see how it's gonna go. I might have to go back to the academia someday, which I would like to, but I don't know when and I don't know how. I don't know. I don't want to take GRA again. It's a lot of things I have to go through.
Yes, true.
I don't mind studying, but I don't like studying. It's contradicting.
I get. Yeah.
you get it. I don't mind
Yes.
studying what I like, but I don't like studying per se. There we go. Thank you. Otherwise, I would be. So another topic.
Yes, you can collect topics over which to stitch and talk.
Well, if I have to answer, if I want to stitch today, I don't think I can answer your question because it requires me thinking. It's good. It's really good. It means
That's
that
all right.
It means that you read my thing. Like you didn't ask the question I already answered already. Like 4 topics are like. I thought this is gonna be pretty long live streaming today. Oh, are you okay? The time? Let me know, okay, if the time is.
Oh, I have no idea what time it is actually.
It has been 1 hour.
Okay. I think at some point the food delivery service will ring, and then I know that. Yeah, but my partner took care of ordering food, so it's all good. We can go on for a bit.
Well, yeah, like 30 minutes or 1 hour ish. I'm not gonna go over 2 hours, so that's That's the maximum.
No, I think food will be here before that.
Okay. Is that okay if it's gonna be on the? They're not gonna scream your name, right?
Sorry?
They're not gonna. The delivery person is not gonna scream your name and address and stuff like that, right?
No. They will just
They're gonna be okay.
ring, and that's probably gonna be quite loud. No.
Okay. It's okay. That's what we do. So the question is, it's a very good question, and the question, like summarizing the question, we understand that the Sashiko thread matters. Thread matters in Sashiko. It is a very critical thing to use the good Sashiko thread to have a good stitches. Her question was, how did it happen? That's a very good question. Like, when did we come up with those Sashiko thread, and what were they doing before that? And this doesn't have any, like, I cannot find many documents about it, but this is the story as far as I know, listening from my artisans and friends who I met after, I mean, before I started live streaming, also after I started live stream. So we didn't have, the Japanese people did not have the Sashiko thread before. So for that, it is very true that we can use whatever thread we have. It is very true. Like, the Japanese people used whatever thread they had in their Sashiko stitching. However, they tried their best to make the better Sashiko thread throughout their experience. And that's the try and error. They kept doing something. What is this one? What is this twist is gonna do? What is that? So there were people, this is something from my friends, but there were people, a group of people who were twisting the basting thread to make a thicker yet soft thread. So sewing thread is too tight and too strong for that matter. Because the goal of this Sashiko thread is to be the part of the fabric. So the Sashiko thread had to be kind of unwind, detwisted over time a little bit, so it catches the fabric, yet not too weak like a basting thread. So they use sort of the basting thread, very fragile thread, twisted with the 4 or 6 or 8 strands, and they tried to make a Sashiko thread. So they kept twisting by themselves. That's a lot of work, but they did. But that's what they did. And sorry, my delivery guy came first. And my wife is taking care of it. So, it's a male person, I guess. Anyway, so after those trials, some artisans decided to make those thread for the artisans or for the practitioners, so we can all save time together. So the Sashiko thread we use today is the result of those try and errors. Therefore, it does matter, and it makes a lot of difference. It's not like, well, this is Sashiko thread from out of nowhere, and you should use it because it's called Sashiko thread. It's not like that. It's based on the difficult time for them that they had to make it from the scratch. And therefore, I want to protect this culture because I don't want to go back. I really don't want to make Sashiko thread from the basting thread.
Oh, no, I guess you won't.
I don't want to do that. Well, I have a lot of threads, so I can probably go to the thread company to make similar one. But I just don't want to do it neither. So that's why I keep, advertising that thread that's matter. Thread is the key. I mean, it is the key.
But it is like I can just agree with you so much, because if you ever have used cheap thread, and I'm saying cheap not price wise, but sloppily made, badly made thread, it's just such a pain to work with it. Like cheap embroidery floss, it's horrible. Like, don't do it. And then I can just say, like, the Sashiko thread I'm using now, which is the one I ordered from you, it just behaves completely differently than any thread I have used before. So it's different to embroidery floss, and it's different, of course, to sewing thread, and it's different to various kinds of embroidery threads. So it's, and
Well,
it just behaves so much nicer. It's so much easier also to work with.
that made us alive in this difficult world. I mean, because many people liked our thread, we could make profit in the Sashiko is not a best way to make money, but we could survive because of those thread.
Mm.
And I am perfect. I'm very spoiled. I'm a very spoiled stitcher for that because ever since I was born, thread was unlimited.
Ah, that is so great.
See, like it's there. It's I didn't have to buy thread from my mother, so it was always there, and I never used the thread outside of my family until 2013. Yes, I never used it.
Wow. Yeah.
It's so spoiled, right? Then I use the other brands, and then wow, oh,
Yeah.
okay, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, there are a lot of good brands. Not only us, but there are a lot of good brands. But I don't want to, advertise some other brands just using one time or twice. So I used quite a lot of. There we go.
So that's my delivery guy.
Yeah, you can go too. Don't worry. So that's how I used it for like years, 2 years at least. But that process of trying for 2 years, it has to be somewhat pleasant. Otherwise, you kind of give up.
Yeah. Very true.
So that's how the Sashiko thread was made. And I don't think in Edo period where we believe that Sashiko's origin, they did not have this Sashiko thread per se. Not at least the company's name on it.
Yeah, thanks for like explaining the backstory of that. That's really interesting to know, because I just assumed it had been there for like a really long time.
I don't know. There might be.
Yeah, I mean they did use something that worked, obviously, but yeah. So I really don't want to be impolite, but our food just has arrived. So
yeah, just please please go and eat.
Thanks a lot for having me, and I really enjoyed spending time with you stitching and talking about everything.
Thank you so much.
Have a great rest of the day, and thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, Anja. I will talk to you later.
See you later. Bye.
Bye. Thank you. Can you go off? Just come off. If you could. Yep. Perfect. Thank you so much.
Perfect. Bye. Thanks.
Bye. Thank you so much for the comment. I'm currently stitching with local cotton pearl, and it's a pain. Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't expect. So I'm currently stitching with the local cotton pearl, and it's a pain to work with. Can't wait to be done with the already and go back to Sashiko thread. Yes, so there are many reasons. I sometimes say strong statement. This is not Sashiko, that's not Boro, that's, please use Sashiko thread, please use Sashiko thimble, needles. It does matters. And there are always stories behind it. And please, I usually explain that on the Instagram, on the YouTube, or where else? I usually explain those things in many places, but if you don't find it, please ask me, so I am willing to explain. Wow, without the earphone, I feel much better. So this I used to do the live streaming by myself, but it was very difficult for me to start. Once I started doing Sashiko stitching like this, it's not that difficult to keep going by myself. Like right now, I don't mind going for another 30 minutes by myself. But it was very difficult for me to start by myself and then keep going until later on, until I get the rhythm of the speaking or stitching. Therefore, I decided to do this kind of Sashiko talk, Sashiko Zoom talk. I will have the guest, and then we will talk about some topics so that I can answer that. And as of now, I prioritize the guest on the Patreon's page that I have. At the same time, I don't want to limit the guest on that. However, I would like to know the guest first before I talk. So if you are interested, please contact me with some, explaining who you are and stuff like that. And I will be inviting you someday. It is much easier, I'm sorry. I have a lot to share. I keep saying, like, every time I write something like long article, I say like I have only shared 10% of what I like to share. It has been 10% for the last 2 years. So I really like to share the story about the thread, how it became the Sashiko thread is one thing, and there are stories like that everywhere. Everything that we do. It's 20 years of listening to the artisans in my family, so it's a lot. So if you have any questions, you can leave the comments, or you can contact me, and I will try to have this live Sashiko talk as often as I can. It is my way to share what Sashiko is, and I hope it makes sense. Okay, what else I didn't cover? Just a second, okay? I think I covered all of the. So I wrote topics, and I said that kind of disclaimer that I'm not gonna promise you to talk about those topics, but I wanna do my best. And I think I did everything. Yes. So after this much stitching, I will go off. Thank you so much for coming to the Sashiko talk. I will keep doing it. Just let me finish this much stitching, and I will show you what I'm doing right now. And then yes, time. Oh, by the way, I want you to, like, this live stream, this live Sashiko talk live streaming is available for anybody. Only things I would like to ask is to have something you can stitch on together. It is perfectly fine for you to watch it, like watch and listen. That'd be great. But at the same time, it is much better if you can work on your stuff. It doesn't have to be Sashiko, but something with your hands. Can be cooking, can be crochet, needlework. Anything is fine. But this is the place or community or time that I would like to create, stitching together, sharing together. And that's probably how the Japanese people were stitching a few hundred years ago. The internet enabled us to do it no matter where we live, no matter how much difference we have. So if you could stitch and listen or watch this live streaming hopefully as if I am next to you. I mean, you don't want to have me next to you. I can be very troublesome. So as if you can, how do I put it the better way? As if you have somewhere to belong to. There we go. As where you have a place where you can belong to. That's my pleasure to share this live streaming. Oops, I made it. All right, I will show you what I have been doing. I've been doing this for a long time. I don't Unfortunately, I don't have much time to stitch in this. After COVID, I don't have much time to stitch. So I will stitch as much as I can in the live streaming and yep. So I don't want it. I will hide it. I will hide it. I don't want to show this one. So this is the front. This is the front. Yeah. This is the front. This is the back. It's quite a big piece. This is gonna be a bag. I will make a bag out of it. This is the back, and I don't make a knot on this project because I want to make the both side as the finished side. And I've been working on this for a long time. Not the time wise, not hour wise. I can probably finish it within 20 hours or so, but it means that I have not stitched for 20 hours. That's kind of shocking. But there we go. That's the limit that I have right now under the COVID. Anyway, the more I can do the live streaming, the more I can stitch, the more I can reasonalize. I can rationalize myself to do Sashiko stitching over the chores I have. All right, thank you so much for watching this Sashiko Zoom talk in English. I will come back. I don't know the next time. I haven't scheduled the next time yet, but I will set the not a reminder. I will set the schedule and you can get a reminder or you can check when it's going to be the next one. All right, thank you so much for watching it, and I will see you next time. Have a good night in Europe. Have a good day for the America, and good morning to the Japan. Thank you. Bye.